Hi there, it's Lindsay here, and today I am going to make a half batch of my easy homemade bread. This recipe this recipe is something that I've been making now for probably about 2 years, and I can't remember exactly where I pulled parts of the recipe together from, and it's just kind of really morphed into my own recipe, so I don't really have a link for you. And I do beg your forgiveness. I'm a little bit stuffy, what with the pregnancy and all. And I was making this bread for the girls. Jared and I didn't usually eat this bread because we eat a lower carb diet in general. But with me being pregnant, I've been a little more of just a whole foods kind of a eating style for right now. And once the baby is born and afterwards, I will definitely be back on THM. But the girls, they really love this recipe. We have just finished off the last few slices of the loaves that I made last week, so I need to replen our pantry. So I'm going to give you a quick sort of rundown of what all is in my bread. This bread recipe makes about 6 loaf pan sizes. Hi, baby. About 6 loaf pan sized loaves of bread. If you have one of those gosh, what are they? They're really long, like 20-ounce bread loaf pans. It would probably make 4 loaves that size. Those are on my wish list on Amazon, but I haven't really felt the need to pull the trigger since I have regular loaf pans. So, in order to make the full 6 loaves, it takes 8 cups of white flour, and whether you use spelt, einkorn, just basic white flour, all-purpose flour, any white flour that you feel confident and comfortable using. It takes 3/4 of a cup of wheat flour, so whole spelt or any unrefined flour that you're comfortable with. It takes 2 tablespoons of salt, 3 tablespoons of yeast, a 3/4 cup amount of flax seed that has been ground up into flax meal, and 4 2/3 cups of very warm water, so like 105 to 115 degree water, 2/3 a cup of honey, and a stick and a half of butter. That's 3/4 of a cup of butter. And okay, baby. And about 3 to 4 extra cups of flour just to get it to the right consistency. So what I've done is I've already got all of my ingredients pulled out here. I've already, and you want to melt your butter. And I've already got that all situated. I've got all my ingredients here.
Salt.
And yes, salt. We are going to load up my KitchenAid mixer here with our dry ingredients first, including the yeast. And then we will sort of whisk those really quickly together just to kind of disperse the yeast throughout the whole amount of flour, the whole volume of flour. And baby, can you not? And then we will add our butter, water, and honey slowly as the KitchenAid needs it. I only use a dough hook for this. You can do this by hand if you want to. I have my Ninja Auto IQ blender back here that came with the smaller processor bowl. If I'm using 1/4 of the recipe, I will usually do it in the processor bowl. It's really up to you. So we're gonna mix all of these together, and we're going to let the KitchenAid knead it until it is smooth and soft. Now, for the whole recipe, you are gonna do all of the ingredients except for the last 3 to 4 cups of flour. And then once everything is well incorporated and it's been kneaded for a little bit, we are going to slowly add in about 1/2 cup at a time until we reach that really smooth, soft, kneadable texture without it being tough. I'm sure you saw how my KitchenAid kind of looks like a bucking bronco. It's a little bit wonky, but it still functions. I just have to babysit it more than most people have to babysit their KitchenAid. So this is what we have as far as dough is concerned. You can see all of that flax meal in there, which is really tasty, and it's not terribly sticky. So that's the consistency we want. It's nice and pliable, not tough, not sticky. So now I'm going to take a large bowl. I'm gonna grab this big plastic bowl. And I went through and I heated my oven up to its very lowest setting, and the very lowest setting on my particular oven is 170 degrees Fahrenheit. So I preheated it that temperature. I had Caitlin turn it off, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray some olive oil into the bottom of my bowl. And then I'm going to go turn my dough into this bowl. All right. So I'm just kind of going to form it into just a nice lump. And today it's about 65 degrees outside. It's about 73 here inside of the house. So I've got all that olive oil that's in the bottom. And so now the bottom of that is coated. I'm going to just flip it over so that way the top stays nice and greased so that it doesn't get dried out on top. I'm going to cover this over with some plastic wrap next. So now that I've got my bowl all covered up with my plastic wrap, I'm going to take my bowl and I'm going to pop it into my oven, which is just warm right now. It's not hot. And I'm going to let this sit in here for about, I'm going to let that sit in the oven for about an hour. Actually, I'm going to turn on a timer. If you overproof this particular loaf or this particular bread recipe, I have found that it will not rise in the oven the way that you want it to, and it'll taste good, but it won't look good, and it won't be really usable for sandwiches and such. Alrighty, so my timer has just gone off. Let's make that thing happy. And this is what we've got. Oh, I don't even know if you can see that. And I can't really shut the light off.
Big puff of bread.
Alrighty, so we've got this giant bowl full of dough. Don't touch.
Mommy, here. Look at that.
Not sure how well you can see that. And now that it's deflated from being pulled out into the cold. Okay, baby, please don't touch. Alrighty. So I've got my big bowl here. It more than doubled in size. And so now what I'm going to do, we have clean hands. So we have 2 loaf pans. I'm going to turn my oven on to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to take my olive oil spray. Give it a light coat into the pans. And then I'm going to take my rings off. I'm going to spray my hands with olive oil. You can use flour if you like. I prefer to use the olive oil. Kind of gently smush it down. And I'm going to divide this into about, probably, it could make 4 loaves, but I think I'm going to do 3. I'm just kind of going to eyeball that. I could get really exact here and pull out my kitchen scale if I was so inclined, but it's not gonna make or break my bread. So now I've got this gorgeous, oh, it's so nice and warm, this soft, pliable, not super sticky loaf of dough here, and I'm just gonna kind of shape it. And you know, you can roll this out and you can get really specific with how you shape it. I'm a little less inclined to do that. So I've got 1/3 there. And here is where I wouldn't mind having some extra loaf pans, just because with the way that the girls eat toast and the girls eat sandwiches on a daily basis, we do go through this much bread in about 10 days, give or take. So it would be nice to be able to bake everything at once, but that is not our current. So I just stopped mid-thought, I'm sorry. I'm gonna take one of my pieces of saran wrap, plastic wrap, and I'm gonna kind of just cover up my spare leftover. And I could turn this into rolls if I wanted to. I could turn this into burger buns, hot dog buns, whatever shape I want. But instead I'm just gonna wrap that up in saran wrap, and I'm gonna set this in the freezer really quickly after I put saran wrap over top of these, because I don't want those tops to dry out. And I'm gonna let these sit here and kind of proof a little bit longer while my oven preheats to the 350 Fahrenheit. My oven is at temp. Here's what my bread has proofed to, just in that 10 minutes of the oven preheating. It's looking tasty, so I'm just gonna pop these 2 loaves into the oven, and these are going to bake for 30 minutes, and then I will check on them and see how they're doing, but typically about half an hour is all they need. So our timer has gone off. It has been 30 minutes since I put the bread in the oven. Oh my, we're getting very steamy here. I need some hot pads, and we are going to see how this bread is doing. It looks gorgeous. It's nice golden brown, and it smells amazing here in the kitchen. Scoot some things out of the way here. I just cooked the girls' dinner, so here's what I have. Sounds pretty good. It's got a nice crust. Does that smell good? Careful, it's very, very hot. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and shut down my oven.
Oh, it is.
Hot, hot, hot.
It does feel
okay,
hot.
Give me a minute, Molly. Okay, so it is now going to rest in the pans for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'm going to loosen it up from the sides, set it on my cooling racks, and I'm going to let this cool completely. I'm going to probably not bag this bread up until it's probably time for me to go to bed. It is almost 6 p.m. right now. I want it to cool down for at least 3 hours minimum, and then I will put it into our little bread bags, and then I will wait to slice this until tomorrow, because I like to make even sandwich slices out of this bread. And I can typically get anywhere between are you getting me a cooling rack? Mm-hmm. Thank you. I can usually get anywhere between 18 and 20 slices of not super thick, probably a little less than a 1/4 inch thick bread, which is perfect for homemade bread, because I find that homemade bread tends to hold its structure a little bit better in a sandwich than store-bought bread. So we are going to do it that way, and I've got my lovely assistant here.